2020 election, because we're going to talk a little bit about debate prep for 2024. So for 2020, I think you had said that you had some role in preparing Joe Biden for his debates in 2020. Is that right?
Yeah, I was part of the debate prep.
Okay. And were you part of the debate prep team for 2024 as well?
No, I was not.
What did debate prep look like for the 2020 debate?
Again,
Understanding, of course,
it was an awkward time, so it was all virtual. There was some moments where there were people there at the location with him, and then there were folks who were virtual. At the time, I had a dual role, so I was virtual for the debate prep. So it was, again, it was a virtual process because of COVID and because what we were dealing with the protocols.
And how would you say then candidate Biden performed in debate prep during the 2020 race?
At the time, it was the beginning of debate prep, so it was more taking information, reading the documents. That's the part of debate prep that I was involved in 2020 to be specific.
So you weren't involved in any mock debates?
No, because again, I had dual roles, so I was not.
What sort of documents were you preparing for that?
Policy, just kind of domestic policy for the things that any other candidate would do, just to kind of walk through. That was prepared. That was it. That's what the part that I was involved in.
Did you watch the 2020 presidential debate?
I'm sure I did.
How would you characterize then candidate Biden's performance in that debate?
I believe it was strong.
So you were not at Camp David during the debate prep for the 2024?
No, not
election?
in my role as White House press secretary. I was not involved in campaigns or any political strategy that related to his reelect.
Did you have any conversations about debate prep with any of the people who were there or were involved with it?
If it was informal. It was like, how's it going? Very, very informal. No memo, no specifics, no readout.
It's my understanding that there were certain White House staff
Yes.
present, correct?
Yes.
So I guess to kind of re-ask the question, why weren't you there specifically?
From what I understood from White House counsel, I had a role that it was better not to politicize it, not to be involved in any political decision. It was better just to keep me, in my White House government role and not be involved in that way, in any decision-making strategy or part of the campaign
And not to ask
conversation.
you an awkward question, but you're not unaware of anybody recommending that you don't attend, besides White House counsel providing advice, but nobody in senior staff recommending that you not appear there.
No, it was a White House counsel decision because I was so public. And if you watch the briefing, you probably would understand why.
I watched a lot of them.
Yeah.
So in your, hey, how's it going conversations, informal conversations, I think you said, with people who were involved, what did they say about how it was going?
It was just one person, the communications director, because he was there and we're friends, and he'd be like, "It's going great." It would be one answers. It wouldn't be a full-throated explanation.
So in that conversation or conversations, there was no indication that debate prep was going poorly?
I never got that indication.
Even before debate prep, did you ever hear anybody express any concern about how President Biden would do in a debate in 2024?
No.
The debate happened relatively early in the election cycle compared to other debates. Do you know why that was?
That was a political strategy that I was not involved in.
Following that thread, are you aware of anyone opining that it should be an early debate to push back against any of the narrative or concerns about President Biden's age or ability to do the job?
that wouldn't be a conversation that I would be part of because it's part of the campaign and the strategy. So I was not part of that conversation.
Recognizing that you weren't part of the conversation, but did you hear that?
Oh, did I hear it? Not that I was privy to, not in a conversation that I was involved in.
Any other way that you might have heard that?
Not in a conversation that I was involved with. I would certainly make that assumption, but I was not part of a conversation to make that decision.
Understood.
To understand that you were not involved with debate prep in any way for the 2024 race, were you there on debate night?
Yes.
I think, if I'm recalling correctly, I think there were a couple of different holding rooms or rooms where different staff or campaign staff were watching from. Do you recall who you were sitting with when you watched it?
Correct. I was in a holding room with a mix of White House staff and campaign staff watching the debate.
Do you recall if Ron Klain was in the room with you?
He was in the room with me.
I believe Mr. Klain said at some point during the debate, I believe after the line about beating Medicare, said something on the lines of, "We're effed." Do you recall that?
I don't remember specifics, but I know people were reacting to what we were all watching in the room. But I can't say specifically that's what Ron Klain said. If that's what he said, I'll take his word for it.
So in the general reaction to the debate in that holding room, was it clear then that it was a bad night?
I think for many of us, including the president, who said it was a bad night, it was a bad night. But I want to make clear, it was a bad night for not health concerns, but political strategy concerns. That's what was going on in the room.
So what was bad about President Biden's performance?
Look, I think we all watched it. I'm not going to go into specifics, but we all watched what was happening. And he said it was a bad night. We all watched it. We all agree it was a bad night. It did not go the way that we wanted to.
I understand that. Frankly, I'm interested in your perspective. You have a lot of expertise and you've worked in politics a very long time, and you don't have a specific aspect of it that was poor.
I agree with the way the president characterized it, which was it was a bad night.
Were you part of the spin team that goes out on the floor after these debates and characterizes the candidate one way or the other?
I would not be, because that would be a political strategy and part of the campaign world. So I would not be part of that.
And just to go back to what you said, you attributed a lot of President Biden's appearance to a cold. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what I've attributed it. I've said that on the record many times.
When did you first learn that President Biden had a cold?
When I was in the room.
So while he was on stage, somebody informed you that he had a cold?
Look, I had not seen him that day. Others in the room had, and had conversations with him. I was on the plane with him, but did not speak with him directly before the debate. And so folks who had talked to him said that he had a cold.
And that was while he was debating, somebody informed you?
I was informed that he had a cold, and one of the reasons I was informed that is because press was asking, there was inquiries from press asking if he was sick.
You remember who told you that he had a cold?
I don't. There was a lot going on in that room, as you can imagine, during a debate.
So to be clear, he had already started debating when you found that out?
Yes, because we heard him speaking and his voice, and it was hoarse. And so that was what that's what was shared with me.
In a recently released interview, the president's son, Hunter Biden, told Andrew Callahan that, quote, "They gave him Ambien to be able to sleep and he gets up on stage and looks like a deer in the headlights. Do you have any knowledge of President Biden taking Ambien ever?
No.
Do you have knowledge of anyone on the president's team providing medication to the president?
No.
And just to clarify, because my question was ambiguous, do you have any knowledge of anyone in the White House providing the president medication other than Dr. O'Connor?
No.
Did you discuss the president's performance after the debate with him directly?
I had a brief conversation on the incoming that I was having, that I was getting from the press about the debate because he asked.
And what did you talk about?
I can't remember the specifics, but I shared with him the incoming that I was receiving, that we were all receiving.
Did he express any regrets about what he had said or how he had performed, other than saying, of course, that it was a bad night? Did he get any more specific than that?
He did not get more specific than that.
Did you have any conversations with other senior staff at the White House about President Biden's performance?
I mean, likely, yes. We talked about it.
So conversations that involved discussions of why he performed like that?
We talked about the debate, the incoming that we were getting, and how to respond to reporters.
How were you directed to respond to reporters?
We shared basically what I shared before, that he had a cold. They also asked me if he was tested for COVID. We said yes, but he did not have COVID. Those were the things that we shared, and it was a bad night.
Were there any additional talking points that were suggested or you put in the book that weren't put out?
Just for some clarity, it wasn't talking points. It wasn't in the book. We were traveling. We were on the road. It was just trying to get in real time answers to questions that reporters were asking.
So, but did anybody suggest a different narrative other than that he had had a cold for
No.
why he'd perform like that?
No.
Did anyone ever advocate for the president to be more public facing after the debate, to do more press conferences or anything of that sort to you?
So I will say this, as it relates to public facing and his schedule, we went from, if I remember, which was always the plan, we went from Atlanta to North Carolina to New York to New Jersey. We had a full, 2-3 days of a 4-state swing. And that's if I'm remembering the numbers of states and the amount of days. But we had a pretty full, robust schedule coming out of the debate. And I will just add, where the president engaged with supporters, took pictures, talked to them, spoke in front of them, and he was out there for the American people to see him directly after the debate.
But
for two days in 4 states, I believe.
But are you aware of any members of senior staff recommending or advising that he do more than that? To be more public facing than he was being?
I mean, there was always conversation about him continuing to be public facing. There was always conversation about, him being out there, especially for the campaign, right? It was a campaign. So those conversations were always happening. Where can we send him? Where does he need to go? Obviously, a lot of that was strategic and from the campaign side, because we were a few months out from the election.
But do you recall anybody specific recommending that in the wake of the debate?
I don't remember anybody specific, but it was a conversation that was consistently had to continue for him to be out there.
At this point,
Mm-hmm.
immediately after the debate,
Mhm.
did you believe that President Biden should stay in the race?
Look, what I believe is when it comes to something like this, to run for re-election, run for election, make these types of decisions, it is something that is very personal. And my job is to support the president in whatever decision that he wants to make. My understanding was at that time that he was still in it and he was still going to continue to run for re-election. I did not think anything else out of that. I did not have an opinion. My only thing was, let me support the White House, this president, the best way that I could.
And I do understand that.
During her testimony before the House Oversight Committee, Karine Jean-Pierre was questioned about former President Joe Biden's debate preparation and performance during the 2020 and 2024 election cycles. Jean-Pierre explained that in 2020, she participated virtually in Biden's debate prep due to COVID-19 restrictions. Her role focused on reviewing and preparing domestic policy materials rather than conducting mock debates. She clarified that her involvement was limited because she held dual roles at the time. When asked about the 2024 debate, Jean-Pierre stated that she was not part of the preparation process. She said that White House counsel advised her to avoid participating in political strategy discussions to maintain the separation between her official duties and campaign activities. Jean-Pierre described informal conversations with campaign staff before the debate, noting that no one expressed concerns about Biden's readiness or ability to perform. On debate night, she watched from a holding room with a mix of White House and campaign staff, including Ron Klain. She recalled that the mood shifted as the debate unfolded and acknowledged that many in the room, including the president himself, agreed it had been a bad night. She emphasized that the poor performance was viewed as a matter of political strategy, not a reflection of Biden's health. Jean-Pierre confirmed that the president had a cold during the debate, learning this mid-event after press inquiries about his hoarse voice. She said he had tested negative for COVID-19. Jean-Pierre denied having any knowledge of Biden being given Ambien or other medication by staff members, apart from treatment managed by the White House physician. After the debate, she had brief discussions with Biden and other senior staff about media reactions. The administration's consistent message to reporters was that Biden had a cold, it had been a bad night, and they were moving forward with the campaign. Jean-Pierre said that despite the disappointing performance, there were no internal calls for Biden to withdraw from the race. Instead, discussions focused on keeping him active and visible on the campaign trail. She stressed that decisions about running for re-election were deeply personal and that her role was to support the president in whatever path he chose.